Hey everybody, welcome to episode 25 of the Litrpg Podcast. I'm Ramon Mejia. I'm here to bring you the latest Litrpg news, reviews, and of course, author interviews. Still want to give a quick shout out to one of our big supporters on Patreon. Jay Taylor actually upgraded his Patreon pledge this month to $5 a month, and he's been a really great supporter over the past few months, and definitely appreciate all the things that he's done to help the podcast thrive and all that great stuff. So I want to give a shout out to Jay to say thank you. And of course, if anyone else wants to be a Patreon supporter, we'll have the link in our show notes. It's just patreon.com/GeekBytes Podcast. I know it doesn't say Litrpg Podcast, but it's the same place for us. Okay. This week I'll be reviewing 3 new titles that came out this week on Amazon. Video Game Plotline Tester, The Dark Herbalist, Book 1. Game Over, a Litrpg series, Book 1. And Legends of Tarthirious, Book 1 of Kylia's story. We are going to begin, though, with Litrpg news. In Litrpg news, our first story is going to be about Luke Chimolenko, author of the Ascend Online series. The author of this best-selling Litrpg series has started to put up chapters of his second book in the series, On the Royal Road. You can look at it right now. He actually has the first 8 full chapters available on the Royal Road for you to read. Also in Litrpg news, Alrong Kong, author of the Chaos Seed series, is getting closer and closer and closer to pushing that publish button on book 6. I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. He has put out the cover art for book 6, however. It looks quite apocalyptic. It's called The Land Raiders, Chaos Seeds, book number 6. So, additionally, chapters 1 through 5 of his new book are up on his Patreon page for his supporters, but chapters 1 and 2 are also free for everyone who wants just to go to the Patreon page and read it. He can get a little bit of a sneak peek before he publishes. We'll have a link in the show notes for that particular link to Alaron's Patreon page. Now, the next couple of Litrpg news sections are just book announcements, but I'm telling you about it this way because they don't actually have pre-order links, but I've talked to the publisher, the authors, and they say that they are planning to publish them on this particular schedule. So first up is Soulstone Awakening by J.A. Cipriano. He plans to put out his novel on Amazon on January the 15th, 2017, so not that far from now. I'll read you the description of the novel. Aaron Hope makes it to the final round of the XPX Games Player versus Player World Championship. Now, unfortunately, he also gets drugged and shoved into the alpha test for World of Rule. In this new virtual reality MMO, players have to find all 8 treasures scattered throughout the world before the Maelstrom's forces devour everything in sight. The only catch, you can't log off. And if you die, well, let's just say what happens in the game doesn't stay in the game. Now, that's the description from the Royal Road version of the story. We'll have a link in the show notes if you want to check out On the Royal Road. It's up there right now. But I'm sure the more polished version is going to be coming out on Amazon, so don't judge it too harshly if you find a few spelling errors. But again, we'll give it a full review when it does come out on January the 15th. Next announcement is going to be from Michael Scott Earl. He is actually writing his very first Litrpg novel. Now, this guy's actually written quite a few other novels, including the Destroyer series, Concrete Chaos, and a bunch of other stuff on Amazon. The title of his upcoming novel is going to be Lion's Quest Undefeated. It's going to be out in mid-January 2017, so this month as well, coming up pretty soon. Now, the premise of the story is rather interesting. Leo the Lion Lennox has been the game's champion for 10 years in a row. He's a competitive online virtual reality fighter. But when a mysterious woman tempts the champ to try her cutting-edge game, Leo discovers a world that is beyond fantastic. Can he resist the lure of this strange world and the beautiful woman that has asked him to quest on her behalf? That's the description. Again, this is another story that's currently on the Royal Road. If you want to go check it out, we'll have a link in the show notes. But again, the author plans to put this out on Amazon mid-January 2017. Now, lastly, in Litrpg news, we have Dungeon Madness Book 2 in the Divine Dungeon series is going to be out February of 2017. Had a chance to talk to the author of that series, Dakota Kraut, recently. We have a nice interview with him. I have an interview with him, I should say, on our website. We'll have a link in the show notes, of course. But the interview basically goes like this. Hey, what's happening in Book 2? I can't tell you. Oh, Book 1 stuff. Interesting. I really do try to tease as much out of him as possible about what Book 2 is going to be about. But he does a really good job of fending off my book advancements. You all can also actually get the first 3 chapters of his new book, though, if you're just anxious to read it, as I am. If you sign up for his newsletter, which you can find on his Facebook page, we'll have a link in the show notes for, of course, the interview that I did with him, and also a link to his Facebook account for the series, The Divine Dungeon, where you can sign up for his newsletter, and he'll send you the first 3 chapters. So there you go. Now an upcoming Litrpg, a nice addition to this list as well. Again, Soulstone Awakening, January 15, 2017. Lion's Quest, Undefeated, mid-January 2017. You're in Game, Litrpg stories from best-selling authors. That's that Russian collection. January 20th, 2017. Spawn Campers, a Litrpg adventure, the second book in the Crucible Shard series. Out January 31st. Also, Secret of the Old Ones, written by Blaze Corbin, author of Delvers LLC. He says his book is going to be out this month, January 2017. Now moving into February, we have a few books out. Dungeon Madness again, Book 2 of the Divine Dungeon series, will be out in February. The Beginning, Dark Paladin Book 1, out February the 7th. Sucked into an RPG, a Litrpg novel. Is going to be out February the 20th, and Spetsnaz, the second book in the 49ers Litrpg series, is going to be out February the 28th. So there you go, folks. Those are all the novels that are coming up, that people have let me know about. So there you go. On to new releases and reviews. Okay, first book up for review this week is going to be Video Game Plotline Tester, The Dark Herbalist, Book 1. I had been looking forward to reading this for quite a few, almost a couple months now, as soon as it was announced by Magic Drum Books that they were translating Michael Antomov's latest novel. They left some chapters up on their website, and it just whetted my appetite, and I was totally happy to see it come through. It is 385 pages, $3.99, available on Kindle Unlimited. Always a big plus in my opinion. But there's also a listing for an audiobook version that looks like it's slated to come out March of 2017 as well. So that's pretty good. Now, full disclosure, I received an advanced copy of the novel from Magic Drum Books to review it, but I have since, of course, purchased it since it's gone live. Now, I'll set up a quick synopsis of it. From the author of the Perimeter Defense series comes a new Litrpg series set in a VR fantasy world, Boundless Realms. Timothy is a down-on-his-luck gamer. He takes care of his wheelchair-bound sister, and he's in need of a steady job that will allow him to pay the bills. He gets a job as a plotline tester in Boundless Realms, where he's supposed to help show off and test rare race and class combinations. Now, during his probationary test, he ends up as a Goblin Herbalist, one of the game's least popular combinations. If he wants to keep his job, he'll have to not only prove that he can survive in this VR world, but he can also thrive with this particular combination. So my general opinion of this story is that I really liked it. It was fun and it was interesting. I'm really super happy that Michael Antonov decided to write the story. I talked to him a few months ago in an author interview, and he was really excited about this story coming to the United States. And now I know why. There's a slew of unique classes and race combinations in the story that are just fun to read about. Things you don't see in a lot of traditional Litrpg or in games in general. They're really fun and interesting combinations. And even though the main character in the story advances to a pretty high level, he never feels overpowered. It's a fun story that hooked me from the very first chapters, and I enjoyed the entire journey. Some people complain that some of the plot lines in the story feel magically filled, and that might be the case for some people, but it was just a fun adventure that often happens in like role games and, MMOs. The plot seems to take a twist, but it's like, oh, you're not really going to be murdered by a million orcs or whatever. But I really enjoyed this story. I was looking forward to it for months and months, and I was happy I read it, and I can't recommend it enough. There's crafting, there are pets, there are interesting quests, tons of good fights, including some player versus player battles here. And I can't wait till book 2 comes out, so enjoyed it a lot. Okay, on to next book. Game Over, a Litrpg series, book 1. This one is written by Godsby Jim. Okay, it is 160 pages, $2.99. It is also available on Kindle Unlimited. Now, this is my synopsis of the story. One day, a meteor falls from the sky, and everyone loses consciousness. A group of people wake up and find it's their duty to find some monoliths and destroy them, or some aliens are going to kill everybody. Now, everyone else they meet is infected by some strange virus that's not really explained that well, but it's a condition that turns them into these raging killer zombie-like things. Oh, and everyone has levels, classes, and abilities that they might live in a game world, but that's never really explained either. So there you go. Now, my opinion on this is that this story is from an author, and when I looked him up online, the only thing I could find on Amazon was a apocalyptic survival story, and that feeling of that kind of writing kind of comes through in this story a lot more than the Litrpg stuff. It is Litrpg. There are levels, there are skills and abilities and advancements, but most of that stuff seems to take almost be incidental to the other part of the story. It almost feels like it's a recycled story or story idea that was adapted into Litrpg. There are some vague references to everyone in the game, but it's never really explained. Again, most of the powers are just almost incidental. They could have been explained away as like professional, skills of real people. For example, one of the main characters is a hardened detective that's thrown away her entire marriage and family to chase after a serial killer called the Laughing Man. And she also happens to be a level 24 detective with the third eye ability. But that first part is definitely explained and explored. That second part is just almost like, here you go, some stuff. That's Litrpg. And that's what I felt like when I read this entire book mostly. The parts of it that are apocalyptic, supernatural mystery stuff, and with just enough gaming elements to qualify as Litrpg. Now, the survival apocalypse stuff is pretty well written. You can tell that the author has a lot of experience writing that type of story. The characters are really fleshed out. But that's all I can really say about it. I mean, the story itself is not really my wheelhouse. It's not really a thing that I've been interested in of end of the world, apocalyptics, supernatural stuff. Maybe it's just a game system that I wasn't familiar with, but none of it's really explained on that end. So I didn't enjoy the story, not because it was poorly written or anything like that, but it really felt like a mashup of a lot of other genres, and no one of them was really done super well, especially the Litrpg part. So I can't recommend it, mostly because of it just wasn't well done on the Litrpg end. If you're into like supernatural thriller stuff, this really might be something for you. It's just not my thing. Okay, on to the next story, last one for the podcast. Legends of Tarthirious, book 1 of Kylia's story, and I hope I'm saying all those names right. It's written by Zachariah Dracolius. I'll read you the premise of the description on the Amazon page. In fear of an impending economic crisis, a drastic change in leadership of society occurs in Great Britain. The residents are told they're no longer citizens and that they have to earn the right by paying off their fair share of the national debt. But they don't have to rely solely on their jobs and careers for this gargantuan task. They can pay it off by playing Legends of Tarthirious, an MMORPG, and collecting resources and in-game items to convert into real-life money. Now, the year is 2035, and Kylia Redmond has 6 short months to pay off her debt, but little does she know that her problems are are going to become a whole lot worse over the coming months. From political scheming, watchful military police, and someone who clearly doesn't want her to be free of debt, Kylia's world is going to be turned upside down and burned before she can so much as log in. Now that description is not only slightly deceptive, but a lot of that doesn't pay off until like almost the very end of the book. So be aware of that. It is 168 pages, 99 cents as an ebook. Great price, by the way. $8.99 as a paperback. Again, these are US dollars. It is also available on Kindle Unlimited. So awesome. Now, this is a really great story. I enjoyed reading it a lot. The characters are believable. The premise of the world is really plausible. And while it takes a little while to get into the game world, where Kylia gets a new character, once you're there in that game world, it's a fun journey. It's a fun adventure. There's lots of interesting banter and flirting between her and other characters. Some of the humor seems to be UK specific, but it's really very entertaining still. A couple of points that I think could have been developed better in the story. One, the backstory. It's a really great setup. And about the UK government being sort of privatized, each resident had to pay off their fair share of the debt before we get any of this. I like that story as a kind of motivation for the character to do her thing. Two, there's also a really important and well done sense of urgency created in that backstory for Kylia having to pay off not only her debt, but also her dead family members' debt, her older brother and her parents, I believe. So there is a really great setup there. And unfortunately, it's not really used in the main storyline. For example, the main character ends up not really optimizing her gaming time to pay off this debt. I mean, she ends up having like 5 game character accounts, and she's supposed to be using them to come up with money. And she finds out that, her plan is not going to work out. And when she gets a new game character, instead of optimizing it to make just enough money to pay off the debt by the deadline, she ends up, just going in game and questing, and not really having a sense of urgency, but playing along with the storylines. And while it's fun as a reader, it doesn't really use that urgency, that was set up earlier. But other than those two things, I really enjoyed everything. And those are really small things that I just thought could be done better. It's not that the story is not well written. I enjoyed every minute of reading it. I just thought that those two were kind of wasted story opportunities. But that's it. If I was going to give the story a rating, I'd easily give it a 7 out of 10. Really above average. I enjoyed it, especially the humor stuff. So, big recommend for me for Legends of Tarthirious, book 1 of Kylia's story. And that's it. We're done. Easy episode, folks. 3 books, lots of good information. If you join the podcast, of course, you want to support the podcast and the things that I do here, you can find out all the ways to do so at litrpgpodcast.com/support. But that's it. Until we hang out again, folks, I appreciate you watching and listening about, me talking about this thing that I love, Litrpg. But until we can do so again, folks, remember to go read some Litrpg. Bye.